Okay, sweet. All right, we are ready to go. So, hi everyone. My name is Cree. I'm from the ETH Global team. We have Eric here from Livepeer. He's going to talk to us about incentive design for Web3 streaming apps. Huge fan of Livepeer. They're what I built on my first ETH Global Hackathon. So yeah, super excited. And yeah, just as we mentioned, we'll leave about 5-ish minutes towards the end for like a quick Q&A session, but feel free to drop all your questions in the chat as we go along, just so you don't forget them. And then if you're a little bit shy like me, there's always the Livepeer Discord channel for you to ask questions in as well. So, all right, Eric, take it away.
Thank you, Cree. Yeah, excited to be back at ETHOnline. Today, I usually talk about kind of building application building. So today's the topic is a little different. It's about incentive design. And the reason I want to talk about incentive design is because I think it's really an important cornerstone for building the Web3's killer consumer application, right? So I think the combination of video streaming and incentive design can really bring us this kind of watershed moment that brings lots of consumers into the Web3 space. And the reason I want to talk about it today is because I think now is the right moment to start thinking about it. So why now? Well, a couple of reasons. One, we continue to see the native demand to grow in Web3, and what I mean by that is the number of people who are exposed to Web3 experiences continue to grow despite the bear market, right? If we look at the number of wallet downloads, if we look at the number of the unique users for some of the popular applications, we see that the user count continues to grow, right? And what that means is now we have a few million downloads for some of the popular wallets, and that's enough of an initial audience for a massively scaled streaming application like like a decentralized YouTube or something like that, right? So the demand is kind of there. However, we're at this interesting time where it's still early, that all the high quality Web3 content are all kind of living at different places, right? No one has really done the work to aggregate all of that content together to create a really great consumer and creator experience that allows us to have this aggregation point. And so and that brings us to the third point, where a lot of this really great Web3 content is actually hosted on Web2 platforms, right? So YouTube is one of the most popular tools for people to for Web3 creators to put their video there. However, we continue to see these Web2 video platforms to censor Web3 creator content, right? We see podcasts like Bankless, where their YouTube channel gets suspended, right? And Bankless was actually the lucky case where they were able to reinstate their channel back after a couple of days. For some of the Web3 creators, their content was just taken down and their channel suspended, and they weren't even they didn't even have the opportunity to back up and download their videos, right? So and it is quite a catastrophic event when this happens to you as a creator. So all of this culminate at the same point. And the other thing that I would mention is that through years of iteration, today we finally have an ecosystem of Web3 infrastructure that's actually mature and performant for us to be able to build a consumer application that is actually competitive from a user experience perspective to a Facebook or a YouTube, right? We have decentralized storage solutions that are performing pretty well. We have data indexing solutions like the Graph that's working well with Livepeer. Livepeer is processing 2.5 to 3 million minutes of video per week, right? So all of these infrastructure are at scale now. So today's topic is about incentive design, right? And there are a couple of different ways to look at it. The first aspect that I want to start introducing is this idea of creator-centric incentives, right? And that's really looking at incentive design as a tool to grow this creator economy that we're starting to see is emerging to be a big trend on the internet, right? And especially in Web3, we're already seeing this narrative grow, and it continues to grow. Things like tools like NFTs, tools like token gating, right? Like all these things are creating really interesting incentive structures that allow the creator to migrate over to Web3 platforms. So when we talk about creator-centric incentives, I think of three goals, right? One is we can create incentives that amplify the creator's success, right? The creator is putting something out there; they're good at something, so that's the seed of their success. And creating incentives help them to amplify their success, to scale up their success, right? But the incentive itself is not enough for the creator, right? Because there needs to be this kernel of demand that they're already creating. But the really big differentiator in Web3 is the fact that creators through Web3 are able to directly connect with their audience, that they're able to own their own data, right? Instead of being on Web2 platforms where you're really building your audience on a platform, you're beholden to that platform, you're getting paid from that platform, right? In the Web3 paradigm, you're directly connecting with your fans, and your fans are directly paying you through this new payment rails, right? And we're removing that middleman, and that's a really powerful shift in paradigm. And so here in Web3, we're really thinking about creating new tools for creators to create to do what they're good at, which is creating, and to monetize what they're creating. So if we look at these incentives, there's already a number of really interesting examples, right? So I'm just going to point out a few of them. Direct tipping / NFT mints is becoming pretty popular, right? And this is the idea of the creators putting a creation out there. For example, you record a video, you put it onto something like a lens tube. You're able to allow your viewers to directly tip you based on your own crypto wallet address, or you allow people to mint an NFT based on what you have created, right? So either they mint an NFT based on the video that you created, or maybe they mint an NFT that allows them to have a highlight of a video reel or something like that, right? Token gating for video content is emerging to become a really interesting tool here as well. It's both for on-demand video, which is uploaded video files, and for live streams, which is really kind of virtual events or performances that are happening in real time, right? So you can use token gating to essentially control access to who gets to consume that content. And an interesting popular mechanism is for creators to launch their own NFTs and then create content only for the fans who have purchased their NFTs, right? And that's a really good way for the creator to kind of create exclusive content for their most loyal fans and to provide more values to them. Moving down the line, there's one-of-one private video, right? So here we see examples like Web3 centric or Web3 based Cameo OnlyFans, where the creators are really creating a single video for a single person, right? And the opportunity here is to completely eliminate the middleman and have like a very low take rate or zero take rate for that transaction. Fan rewards is something that that's a little newer, but I'm really excited about this concept. Example here is a creator offers a NFT to their fans, and the fans can stake their NFT when they're consuming the creator's content, and by doing that, they get to earn tokens, right? So it's kind of consume to earn or watch to earn type model. And these tokens are not necessarily, monetary in any way, but they can be really good mechanisms for things like redeeming merch or getting early access to new content, or getting access to special in real life experiences, right? So this is a way for the creators to really reward people for engaging with their content, and we already see some of this happen in real life or in the Web2 world. For example, if you watch Twitch streams, you actually earn Twitch points, right? But those Twitch points only can be redeemed within the Twitch universe, versus for this fan rewards, we can start to design all kinds of new tools for creators to engage with their fans. Crowdfunding for video production, again, another concept that I think is really powerful in the Web3 world. We see how quickly someone like an organization can do a crowdfunding campaign to create something, right? Whether it's Constitution DAO or Juicebox or Mirror, it's already a concept that's been proven that works well, right? So I'm interested to see more hacks in this direction. And finally, the last thing I'll mention is social goods. So an example here is Doing Good, which is a NFT platform that promises to contribute a certain percentage of the proceeds to a good cause, right? So similar to it look and feels a little similar to like OpenSea, but the difference is that it's always contributing to a good cause, and this is a really interesting incentive to get a lot of the Web2 existing creators in the Web2 space who maybe are a little weary about how they might come across to their audience if they just jump in and started creating NFTs, right? By having this social good alignment, it's oftentimes a good introduction to a Web2 centric audience about about this like Web3 incentives, right? So these are some creator centric incentives that I've seen that are interesting. Another topic that I want to cover here is kind of community-centric incentives, right? So this is distinct in that here we're really trying to create a community and increase community member engagement by offering the community members an opportunity to have skin in the game. Another way to think about this is that we're designing a microeconomy for a community, right? So there are many different considerations when we talk about this, right? So for example, when we do this, we think about having a resource pool at launch, right? It can be a token pool where you kind of create allocations between inflation, which represents kind of community participation, and the core team that's creating the project, right? You need to think about inflation schedule, whether it's a continuous model or how governance comes to play. You need to think about the token distribution mechanism, and especially how to account for kind of productivity or value creation, right? So for example, if you think about a contributing role for a community, they're adding value and getting rewarded, right? So for example, for a content creator, they're creating content by adding value, and they're getting rewarded for creating content. there's the opportunity to have a curator role, which is really helping others to discover the content that's been created. There's the moderator and coordinator role to help organize and ensure high quality for the or kind of a good experience for the community members that are participating. And finally, we're starting to see these concepts of drops, right? And at the very beginning, it was mostly NFT drops, but we're starting to see there's merch drops. There are even content drops or events that are scheduling, and these are all tools that community organizers can use to create more value for the community members, right? So this is a pretty hypothetical and conceptual description. So let's use an example to really illustrate what this can be, right? So here we're thinking about a theoretical community-owned video platform. So think of this as a Web3 version of a YouTube or a Patreon or a Twitch, right? We can think about the token inflation and inflation schedule and really early incentives for participants, right? And here we can think about the different people who are participating and contributing value. We should be putting aside value for people who are building application or people who are actually creating the video content, people who are doing the content moderation, how this token can play into the governance of the community, and how this token can be used to incentivize operators to come in and actually play the operations role. We also should think about how to actually distribute the ownership to these early participants, and how to make this long-term sustainable, right? So a pretty traditional token distribution model is something like this, right? A core team comes together, they decide, we're gonna put aside 20% of all the tokens for the core team, and put aside 20% to the treasury, 15% to investors if they're raising some money to get started, and then the rest, which is 45%, can be for the community in kind of a participation-based distribution or mining-based distribution, something like that. And so this is a mechanism that's been used for years, and it can be a good solution for you if you're building, especially like an infrastructure project that requires 12-18 months of building before you launch something, and you need to essentially raise some money, capital at the beginning to help fund to that milestone. And there's actually a really good article here I linked here, and I'll share this deck out in the YouTube link, where we'll talk about the link talks about the different types of token distributions and kind of the popular projects, and how they have done it over time. But a really interesting trend that we're starting to see recently is that token distribution mechanisms are starting to become more community driven, right? Versus the traditional model. So the traditional model was still like a little centralized, right? The core team come together and makes all the decision for everybody. And Variant is a investor in the space. They've done a really good job kind of summarizing all of these new trends, right? We're starting to see kind of bottoms up token design, right? Where incentives are really kind of core contributors to the long-term success of the protocol. Something that a really interesting project that I want to highlight here is this project called Non-Style, where every day there's a new NFT that gets auctioned off, and this auction has been going on for about a year, and over this time, this DAO was able to build up a pretty significant treasury, and every NFT holder that gets the NFT through this auction are able to vote on proposals for the DAO in terms of how spend that treasury, right? So and the whole mission for this DAO is to kind of perpetuate the success of this NFT project, right? And it's a really interesting kind of a continuous auction model to see how to see how that ecosystem has evolved over time. They've gotten filmmakers to make films for this NFT, and they've gotten artists to create really interesting exhibits around this NFT, and they've been building this franchise over time. We can shift topic a little bit and talk about kind of creator token incentive, right? So before here we talked about kind of the initial token distribution and inflation schedule and how that would look like. So we're going to zoom in a little bit and think about how we can incentivize creators to actually come to this video platform and create content and put their content on this platform, right? One way to think about it is you can offer creators tokens through video engagement metrics, right? So here what we're saying is the more engaging your video is, the more you will get rewarded, right? So we can, this is a very simple example. We can say, every day there's a certain amount of inflationary token that gets distributed to all the creators that put video on this platform, and the amount of token that each person get is based on the amount of engagement that they get in that day for all the videos that they have uploaded, right? So how do we calculate the engagement? We can say, the engagement is the total views of the video plus the number of comments on the video, or you can have some kind of multiple for the comments if you want to count the comments as a more active engagement versus the view as a more passive engagement, right? And the way we can do this to actually implement it is to for every day we aggregate all this data together. We calculate who gets how much token. We put all of that information into a Merkle tree and write the Merkle root on chain, right? And every day these creators can come and claim their reward based on that Merkle tree, right? So we do need to do some off-chain calculation, of course. We do need to have an oracle that writes this data on chain, so we need to have a trusted source. But I think that's an okay way to get started on day one. Another important thing to point out here is to make this incentive fair for everyone. It's important to have a governance mechanism that allows the community to come together and decide that there is actually a more fair incentive model in the future, and have a governance mechanism to upgrade to that new mechanism, right? And here we should also think about Sybil attack vectors. So for example, we can say only the token holders can create comments for the videos, right? So that prevents kind of spammers from just coming and creating a bunch of spammy content. Next area, we can talk about kind of participation token incentive, right? So here we talked about creators who are actually creating videos. But there's more participants than just creators, video creators in this in this platform, right? So we can have curators, we can have people who are remixing the content. We can think about access control, like token gating, and how that can play into the incentives model. And finally, we can think about builder incentives, right? So curator is an idea that these participants can create. They're kind of tastemakers, right? They can create lists of really interesting videos based on a certain theme, and they can continue to add new content to this list, right? You can and consumers can decide to subscribe to these channels. And we already see that exist in today's Web2 applications. So Spotify is pretty famous for having curators create those playlists. And today the majority of the traffic on Spotify is through these playlists, right? But Spotify chooses to to pay these curators a certain amount, but they keep the majority of all that ad revenue. But for a Web3 platform, I think the incentive can be a lot more transparent here. Same as remixing, right? And so if I'm a creator and I'm creating content, I can potentially decide whether my content is allowed to be remixed and how I want to share the incentives for me with the people who are remixing my content, right? With the idea of that remixing my content actually drives more traffic to my original content. Right? Another idea is access control, token gating. We talked about this a little bit. A really interesting kind of thing to think about here is like what you are using to do the access control, right? So for example, you can say you can only my channel is only viewable if you pay the subscription fee in the platform token that the platform launches, right? Or you can say I actually accept different types other tokens. For example, if the blockchain native token is a good option. So what that just means, if you're building on Ethereum, you would take ETH. If you're building on Polygon, you would take Matic and things like that. Or you can say, I'm a creator that I've actually launched my own NFTs in the past, and I want to gate my content through my NFT ownership, right? Or you can even launch your NFT through the platform, and the platform could potentially take a percentage and to keep in its treasury to fund development of the platform itself. Right? I'm going to jump forward and talk about governance and operations. Governance is an important aspect for any kind of token incentivized communities, right? Because it is important for the community to be able to get together and make important decisions for the community, and that's kind of the cornerstone of a community-owned platform, right? So some ideas around what the token can actually govern, right? Things like the inflation schedule, things like treasury management or resource allocation, things like content policy, right? What kind of content is allowed on this platform is oftentimes very, very important for a content platform, especially a user-generated content platform. And special programs, things like marketing, things like community building, incentives programs, right? I want to especially call out content moderation, especially for video streaming platforms, because it's oftentimes a really tough problem to address, right? And I think here to start out, having a strong content policy and having a mechanism for token holders to be able to flag questionable content is a good way to get started pre-scale, right? And once you get to scale, once you become a bigger target, I think you can start to invest in automated flagging for illegal content, and there's a lot of good kind of well-trodden grounds in terms of how platforms have done that in the past. Finally, I want to just point out some infrastructure considerations as you're building these like token incentivized streaming platforms. You can think about like the types of video services that are being offered, right? So whether it's video on demand or video live streaming or even video conferencing. And as you're thinking about infrastructure, it's important to consider that the videos that are being streamed are oftentimes transcoded and delivered through different transformations, and that's to ensure the scalability and the reliability of the viewing experience. So it's important to consider that it's not just somebody uploading an MP4 file and streaming the original MP4 file, right? There's multiple steps that are in between to make sure the video streaming quality is high. It's important to think about infrastructure portability when you're choosing an infrastructure provider, right? For example, vendor lock-in is a really big problem, especially for today's cloud providers, right? If you're using Amazon, for example, it's really hard to move off of Amazon, right? But if you're using a Web3 platform, right? If you're using Ethereum when you're using Ethereum as your blockchain service, You can pick any of the providers, right? Whether it's Infura or Alchemy or QuickNote or any of them, and there's no vendor lock-in whatsoever. So also it's important to consider that in the Web3 context. And data portability is another big one, right? On top of vendor portability, data portability is really about verifiable ownership for the user about the data that they own, right? So in this case, it's verifiable ownership of the video that someone has uploaded into your platform. In this Web3 paradigm, right, like the creator should be the owner of the video that they have uploaded, and there should be verifiable proof that that they own that video, and they're simply using these platforms as a tool to distribute that video to the viewers, right? And Livepeer has been working in many of these areas, especially in the portability and infrastructure portability areas. So if you're interested to dig in more there, please reach out to us, come to our Discord, things like that. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this because I know we're a little bit over time. I just want to briefly mention there's Livepeer Studio that kind of wraps all this up to you in a very easy to use API and hosted gateway to the Livepeer network. It provides video on demand service. Video on demand is actually a pretty new area that we've been doing a big push on in the past few months. We're putting something out there this week that includes kind of a video on demand API, an easy to use SDK, a video player that you can embed in your application, out of the box video metrics, and also tools for minting video-based NFTs, especially for long-form video. Using Livepeer is really beneficial. The other thing that I will mention is there is a live streaming API as well that allows you to do video ingest, transcoding, delivery through the API. It has an SDK and video player component as well, and it also allows you to broadcast video straight from the browser, which if you're familiar, a lot of times broadcasters have to use a like a separate application, something like a OBS, to be able to broadcast. There's lots of Hackathon developer resources. I highly recommend signing up for the Livepeer developer program. So go to lvpr.link/devs, and you can sign up to talk to one of Livepeer's team members and talk about your hack with us, get product feedback and things like that. We're here to support you. We love the ETH Global community, and as well as there is a ETH Global Livepeer channel that a lot of you already know about. There's a hacker quick start guide. That's a Notion page that gives you a lot of the good resources, example applications and things like that. And of course, there's the Livepeer Studios docs, which is a pretty well-maintained resource for anyone building application using Livepeer. There's overall a $10,000 prize pool, right? Split between first, second, and third place. So yeah, looking forward to seeing all the interesting hacks that you guys have built.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, if you have any last minute questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Otherwise, we have the Discord channel that the Livepeer team will be monitoring, so you can always drop them there too, since I know we're a little bit past time. But yeah, Eric, thanks so much for that workshop. That was amazing. Always super insightful and educational. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Thanks Eric for hosting, and we will see you at the next workshop.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Bye.
Bye.